Hi guys, it's Drew here. Welcome to this week's video log. I know I didn't do one last week, but I didn't really have an awful lot to talk about, to be honest with you. Just going to give a quick update on what I've been playing, what I've been up to, and also a little bit about the PlayStation 1, the original PlayStation, which this week turned 20 years old. I can't really believe it's 20 years since the PlayStation came out, but there you go. I'll start off with what I've been playing. I've been playing since it came out. I've been playing Dragon Age Inquisition on the Xbox One. Really enjoying this. I've sunk, according to my game stats, about 115 hours into this so far. Crazy amount of time, and I've still got an awful lot of way to go. I'm trying to get all the achievements on it as well. Doing pretty good in that regards. I've got let's just check for you. At 1,000 points I've got 720 points, and that equates to having 43 of the 50 achievements so far. I am going to need to do a complete other run through of the game as well on Nightmare difficulty level, because I started it on hard. I really wish I'd started it on Nightmare now, because with Dragon Age games you never know how tricky they're going to be until you start playing them. But I've found this one to be not too bad. I mean, it's pretty easy, to be honest with you, once you get your tank up and running. As long as he doesn't go down, which he shouldn't do, as long as you're being on the ball, then you should be okay. I've killed all the 10 high dragons. Can't imagine anything being harder than those. I mean, they've literally got 300,000 hit points compared to your characters who have about 1,000 hit points, and he tanked them like a bloody trooper and kept it taunted, and we beat all 10 of them down basically. But yeah, it's really good graphically. It's a bit patchy in places. It's a step up from last generation, but it's not amazing. Some of the graphics are truly mind-blowing, especially the particle effects when all spells are going off and everything. They're really good, but sometimes the scenery lets it down a little bit, and I think the cutscenes are 30 frames a second as well, compared to 60 frames which the rest of the game's in. I think, maybe wrong there, but I know there's a definite drop in frame rate. This bloody camera, what's it brightening up for? Yeah, the lighting industry is appalling today. The light bulb's gone, and we haven't got any in. So I'm going to get a light bulb tomorrow, so it's a bit dark, and that's why the camera, I think, keeps flaring up to try and adjust the light there. But right, okay, so that's what I've been playing there, and I reckon I've got a decent bit of time left. I'm going to complete my hard playthrough, and then my Nightmare playthrough I'm going to be a bit intermittent playing it, because I can't really do another full playthrough straight off the bat there, so I'll be playing something else while tackling the Nightmare playthrough. That's what I've been playing there. Obviously this past week as well we saw Black Friday. Didn't buy an awful lot. Game off the Xbox One dashboard marketplace, the storefront there. Titanfall for a tenner, digital version obviously. £10 with all the DLC, with the deluxe version. I mean, that's about like 80 to £100 worth of content there for £10. Now, I was actually part of the beta for Titanfall and didn't really like it. Well, I liked it, but I wasn't prepared to buy it, put it that way. But for £10, it's good. It's £10. It's worth anybody's money. So I've not even downloaded it yet actually, because I've not got enough room on my stupidly small hard drive that Microsoft decided to put in the Xbox One. I mean, 500 gig? It's nowhere near enough when some games weigh in at 46 gig. It's just absolutely stupid. Should have been 1 terabyte minimum. I know you can expand them, you can buy external ones to expand them nowadays, and that's what I'm probably going to have to do. The only other Black Friday pickup that I got was Escape at Dead Island on the 360. Got it from Zavvi, $14.99. It's only been out a week, so pretty much half price straight off the bat there. It's been getting mixed reviews, but I'm the kind of person who thinks nowadays you don't tend to get truly bad games. Not like back in the day when you got complete train wrecks of games which didn't work, completely unplayable. Even the worst 360 game or the worst PlayStation 3 game is still highly playable. Obviously it's not going to be brilliant, it's not going to be high standards, but in my opinion, as long as the game's playable, functional, and it works, there's some fun to be had in it. And you've got to enjoy the not so good games to appreciate the games that are really good an awful lot more. I mean, I've played over how many games have I played on my 360 to date? Let's just have a quick check for you. And I literally play anything. I've played Hannah Montana on the Xbox 360. I don't give a shit. It's there. I'll play it. 879 games I've played on my Xbox 360 and the Xbox One combined. 879. So obviously I've played an awful lot there. But this has been getting panned. I reckon it's going to be average to above average. I reckon it's going to be a decent, enjoyable game. It's going to have problems, but it's still going to be highly playable. And £15 for probably about 10 hours worth of entertainment, comparable to other forms of entertainment. Not a bad thing in my opinion. It's different departure from the regular Dead Island games, which are obviously First Island. We've had Dead Island and Dead Island Riptide. This one's, I don't know if you can see because of the bloody glare. It's cel-shaded third person, kind of comic booky style. It goes black and white in places as well, and it's basically he's gone to the island to investigate what happened. I'm not sure if it's a prequel actually. What's it say on there? Let's get down. Survival mystery adventure that follows Cliff Callow, shit name, as he sets sail to document the unexplained events on Banoi. So obviously the events have already occurred. Arriving on the island of Napala, is that? He finds that not everything is as it seems. No shit. This title lets players delve into the Dead Island universe and unravel the origins of the zombie outbreak. So yeah, it's supposed to be stealth based as well. As it says there, stealth, and there's also combat as well. But yeah, I reckon it's going to be enjoyable. Nice little spin-off. And you're also meant to get beta access to Dead Island 2 as well, which is looking really good. Not sure if that's Dead Island 2 is for last gen and current and new gen, current gen, whatever we call it, fucking gen. But yeah, that's all my Black Friday pickups. Finally, yeah, PlayStation, 20 years old. 20 years old today, and I picked one of those bad boys up on launch day. How old would I have been 20 years ago? I would have been 17, so I would have been in my first year at college doing my business and finance course. I do remember going down to Game. There's a Game in Leeds City Centre, which is no longer there anymore, it's moved around the corner now. I remember going there with cash, all cash it was. I think I had about £600 worth of cash in my wallet. Just a ridiculous amount of money there to walk around with. And so I think the console was £400. And was it the PlayStation that didn't release with a SCART lead or something? You had to buy something just to get it running on. I can't remember now. I can't remember. But I remember buying the console itself. I got a memory card. I ended up with 2 controllers. I don't think did you get 2 controllers with the initial machine? I don't know. Can't remember now. But game wise, I got Tekken, and I got the football game that came out. And those are the only games that I was tossing up between that and that Battle Arena Toshinden. But I'm glad I plumped for Tekken, because Tekken's obviously a superior game. Looking back on the console, I mean, you look back on it now, the graphics were ugly now. You look back at the graphics were ugly, but back in the day they were amazing, because it was the first step into, like, well, for consoles anyway, was fully polygon 3D gaming. We hadn't seen anything like that before, so it looked absolutely amazing. You go back nowadays and you look at it and you think, whoa, that looks ugly as sin, but back in the day it was amazing. Same with any old machine really. You go back and you look at it now and you think that looks ugly, and you try and explain it to the younger generations and they think, what the hell are you on about, that looks absolutely shit. But when you're back in the day, it's the highest spec there is, isn't it? It's like 20 years time they'll be looking back on these consoles that we've got now and thinking they look absolutely abysmal. But yeah, I remember having Tekken and that football game for quite a while. Played Tekken to absolute death. The football game was okay, it was responsive. I think the biggest thing I liked about it was the countries had national anthems when they came on. They had fully rendered national anthems. I think it was also the first CD-based console that I'd actually owned at that point. So obviously the sound effects were a step above old cart-based technology. But if you think about it though, £400 for the actual console back in the day, and you literally just got a console. It didn't do anything else, didn't have any bells and whistles like the consoles of today have. And obviously £400 back then was an awful lot more. In terms of, you know, we're taking into account inflation today and stuff. It was an awful lot more back then than it is now. So you just literally got a console which you pressed an on button and you got the booted up to the Sony title screen, didn't it? And if you had no disc in, it went to the memory card management screen as well. And you could also play an audio CD. You know, memory cards with 16 blocks on there. You could actually store bugger all. I know at a later date I got XCOM Enemy Unknown. I actually only just recently sold that game actually. XCOM Enemy Unknown, and that took a full bleeding memory card up for one save. They were pitifully small, the save slots were, so you used to have to juggle multiple memory cards around. Luckily quite a lot of games with special editions gave away memory cards. I think I had a Driver memory card, and I think I had a Resident Evil memory card, obviously Resident Evil 2 memory card, and I had loads of standard ones as well. And sometimes magazines gave away memory cards as well with cheats loaded onto them, or game saves loaded onto them. Obviously game saves are frowned upon nowadays, but there was something loaded onto them anyway. I'm sure it was cheats, or I don't know what it was. I can't quite remember. But yeah, I mean the console always sticks out into my mind. I always loved the design of the PlayStation 1, the round contours of the disc tray that lifted up were absolutely amazing. Right, I've been interrupted by about bloody 3 or 4 phone calls there, so I've lost my train of thought what I was talking about. I think we're going to go on to some games, memorable games from the PlayStation 1 that immediately stick out in my mind, that I don't really have to think about really. Personally, my favourite game on the system is quite a lot of the RPGs. Vandal Hearts, a game that not a lot of people may not have played. It was a turn-based strategy RPG where you commanded a band of heroes which you could expand on different paths. Like you could turn warriors into straight-out assault warriors, or you could turn them into tanks. I think the priest guy or the monk, the priest could turn into a ninja monk, or you could turn into an actual priest, a dedicated healer, stuff like that. It was a really good turn-based game, and graphically it's still, well in my mind it still looks good. I've not played it for quite a while, and again I had that until recently. I sold a lot of my retro stuff, and Vandal Hearts was one of the things that I did sell. That and Vandal Hearts 1. I was a bit reluctant to sell it, but it was just sat on my shelf, and I just wanted somebody else to benefit from it really. So I don't really collect the PlayStation 1 stuff anymore. Another game that sticks out in my mind, which never got a PAL release, which is criminal in my opinion because it's one of the best games on the system, was a game by Square. It was Parasite's Eve. Don't get it mixed up with Parasite's Eve 2, which we did get. That was an okay game, but it wasn't fantastic. But Parasite's Eve once had an amazing story. I got the NTSC version, so I had one of those. I had my console hacked, so it would run NTSC and Japanese games. And I remember importing Parasite's Eve into the country myself. I think I paid about £80 for it, which is a lot for a game, but it was well worth it. It's typical Square high production values. It's not like your kind of Final Fantasy thing. The combat was, you could actually see the enemies on the screen, and when you hit the combat button, a dome appeared on the map, which was like your range of attack, and then within that range you had several other options of what you could do and everything. So it kind of like froze time, so it was kind of like turn-based, but not turn-based, if you get what I mean. It was kind of real time, and then after you used your attack you had to wait for a cooldown to happen before you could attack again. But the story was absolutely amazing. It was about the mitochondrials in your bloodstream. It's actually a proper term that you've got. That's happened in a lot of sci-fi stuff and things. Apparently there was a creature who could, a creature called Eve, who could manipulate those and mutate those and stuff. And at the opening scene of it, you actually attend an opera house where the crowd have been completely melted or devolved into this sludge and everything, and you start investigating it as a cop and discover that it's this creature called Eve, and then the rest of the game you're chasing her and trying to find out what the hell's going on, basically. Soundtrack's amazing, the script's amazing, cutscenes are typical highly polished CG cutscenes for that time of gaming anyway, that you got on the PlayStation 1. Really good game, so that's another one that you should check out if you're into them. Criminally didn't get a power release, like I say. The other one is probably one that everybody's favourite. It's Metal Gear Solid. Again, it's another import. I imported mine from Japan, and I didn't have a bloody clue what was going on in it, because obviously it was all in Japanese text, and all the cutscenes were in Japanese as well. So I had no clue what was going on story-wise. And that's where I got stuck in the game, actually, because I managed to progress to the bit where you got the key cards and you needed 3 key cards. Well, it doesn't turn out to be 3 key cards, is it? It's the same 1 key card, but you've got to go to the heated area of the map to turn it red, and you've got to go to the cold area of the map to turn it blue. And obviously, because the text was in Japanese, I had no clue what to do at that point, so I never progressed past that point until I actually managed to get hold of a PAL version of the game some years later. Obviously there was no real internet back then, so that you could find solutions or anything such as that, so really stuck on it. But that was a groundbreaking game really for the system. Another set of games that spring to mind as well are the light gun games that came out for it. The was it GunCon controller, G-Con controller that you got with Time Crisis. They were really good games as well. But more so than the Time Crisis games, I actually like the Point Blank games that came out. They were like gallery shooters, like mini game shooters, and it was just really clever titles, especially when you had 2 people firing at the screen at the same time. So one thing I do miss about modern gaming, actually, that we don't really have a lot of light gun games. I know they've limited appeal, and the guns tend to go to waste because not many games get released for them. I mean, on the 360 there's a game called Attack of the Movies 3D, which is a gallery shoot, which is like an on-rails shooter, but there's no gun for the 360, so you actually have to move a crosshair on the screen, which is just a complete debacle of an idea, and it doesn't work basically. Anyway, yeah, back to the PlayStation 1. Yeah, gallery shooters like that, really good, really good games. What else did the PlayStation 1 give us? Crash Bandicoot. Gave us Crash Bandicoot. Never a fan of Crash Bandicoot, to be honest with you, but I appreciate he was like one of the main characters that was successful in that generation of games, where in the 16-bit area we had Sonic make his appearance. Crash Bandicoot was definitely probably the most famous of the new characters that got introduced. Probably Crash Bandicoot and probably Spyro as well. I actually prefer Spyro as a character rather than Crash Bandicoot, but whilst I didn't like the games personally, I can appreciate the place in the history of the PlayStation and that generation of consoles. But yeah, that's what I remember the PlayStation for. Really cracking console. Didn't like the revision of the console when it was dubbed the PS1. Didn't like that design of the machine. I liked the bigger, bulky version of the machine. But yeah, it's really good title. I mean, obviously we got Final Fantasy VII as well. I'm not a big fan of Final Fantasy games, to be honest with you, but again, I'm not one of those people who, because I don't like something, will write them off. I appreciate they are good games. I mean, that amount of people can't be wrong, obviously. It's just not my personal taste of game, really. I mean, I do like Japanese RPGs, but the Final Fantasy series, I just don't seem to click with them. I think the only one I mildly enjoyed was Final Fantasy X on the PS2, which apparently is one of the most derided Final Fantasy games there is, but I seem to like it for some reason. But there you go. So yeah, PlayStation 1, 20 years old. Unbelievable. Great console, an important part in gaming history. Without the PlayStation 1, where would we be now? Because if you think about it, up until then it was Nintendo and Sega. Sony came into the scene. Now if Sony didn't come into the gaming scene, would Microsoft have come into the gaming scene? Obviously Nintendo is still around nowadays, but Sega have fallen by the wayside, and it is predominantly PlayStation and Microsoft, because Nintendo are doing their own thing with the Wii U, which is a great console, but it's not got the technical capabilities to compete with the current Sony and Microsoft machines. So it's doing its own thing really, but it's doing its own thing well. I know there's rumours of it not doing well sales wide and stuff, but Nintendo still produced the best first party games. The first party games are absolutely quality. They've got a level of polish which no other developer or console seems to be able to achieve, to be honest with you. Without Sony coming in with the PlayStation 1, where would the industry be now? Would Sega still be in the console market? Because obviously they were a big contributor to the Sega's demise really, because they took Sega out of the equation. Would Sega still be making consoles? Would the Dreamcast have been a success if PlayStation hadn't, if Sony hadn't entered the market? And I think Sony and Microsoft only entered the market because Sony did. So obviously when Sony developed the PlayStation 2, Microsoft brought out the original Xbox. Can't call it Xbox One of course, the original Xbox. So it's food for thought, isn't it really? We really need to be able to see what these alternate realities would have been. It'd be great if we could really, because slightest little change would be where would we be now. But yeah, great console, great memories. I'm sure everybody has some fond PS1 games, and it's just a great console overall really. So it'd be interesting to know if anybody's got any thoughts or personal favourites on the PS1. If you want to pop them in the comments, even put them in the comments if you want, but that won't help me. Put them in the comments. Let's see what you think about the PlayStation 1 overall as a console and where it holds its place in the history of gaming. And any favourite games, I'd like to know those, because there's probably loads I've forgotten, but just the ones that's standing out in my mind immediately was those really. And oh, of course, one more game we can't really forget is the Resident Evil series. Again, it looks ugly as sin nowadays, but survival horror wasn't invented by Resident Evil. It was Alone in the Dark really, but they took it to the next level really. They made it look decent, made it look good, and it gave us a number of quality games. I mean, the games have kind of like gone off on a weird odd tangent now, and they're not really faithful to the original, but the old games are still there and still highly playable despite tank controls. But yeah guys, put your thoughts and comments about the PlayStation 1 and anything else I've discussed in this video. That would be much appreciated. I will try and reply to all the comments, and thanks for watching, and I hope you tune in next week. Well, I'll have another load of waffle to tell you about. Thanks guys.